Alrighty guys, so today I'm going to be going over the instructions for the Precipitation Lab. So just make sure that you guys have your pre-lab handout and you'll be watching this video in order to answer the questions on the pre-lab. Okay, so in this lab, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be reacting two compounds with each other and creating a precipitate in solution. So basically, you'll be taking two aqueous solutions, you'll be mixing them together, and you'll be producing a solid in that solution. So the two compounds that you'll be reacting are copper 2 chloride. It's going to look like this. And you'll also be reacting it with an NaOH solution. Okay. All right, so before we get started, let's go over the safety rules. Safety rules for this lab are pretty simple. You're going to be working with glassware. So you're going to be working with things like this, beakers and whatnot. And these are, as you would imagine, pretty fragile, so just make sure that you're not messing around. If you break any of the equipment in this lab, it's going to be an automatic 0 and you won't be able to do any labs in the future. Just because this lab is super simple, there's really no reason for anything to break. So just make sure that you guys are, keeping track of where the equipment is and you're not messing around. Same thing as usual. All right, second thing is that you are going to need to wear goggles for this lab, same as usual. Protect your eyes. Just make sure you're wearing goggles when you're at lab stations as usual. If they do get uncomfortable or foggy, you can step away from the lab stations to air out your goggles, but just make sure when you're at the lab stations that you guys are wearing goggles. Okay, let's get started with the procedures for the lab. Okay, so for the first step in the lab, what you're going to do is you're going to obtain a 250 milliliter beaker. Just make sure that it says 250 when you guys pick up your beaker. You can either find them hanging on the racks above the sinks in the class, or there should be one in front on your lab station for you. What you're going to do is you're going to take it to your instructor, and your instructor is going to give you a prepared NaOH solution. Okay, so this is your NaOH solution. Now, this solution right here is going to be your excess. And so what that means is you're going to have so much NaOH in this reaction, you're not going to need to worry about it. So you're going to go to your instructor, and your instructor should give you about 100 milliliters of NaOH solution. Okay, more or less. It's not going to be exact, so if your instructor doesn't get it exactly on the line, don't give your instructor a hard time. As long as it's around 100 milliliters, you should be good. Okay? Alrighty guys, after you've received your excess NaOH solution from your instructor, you're just going to take your NaOH solution and just kind of put it off to the side at your lab station. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go to where the scales are to obtain your copper 2 chloride, and you're going to be making this solution yourself. Now, you should be able to produce this solution using the instructions you received from your instructor. So on number 4, on your pre-lab, you're going to be solving a problem right now. So if you want to, you can just pause the video and you can work with your lab partner. But basically, you're going to have to come up with the procedures for producing a 100 milliliter, 0.2 molarity CuCl2 solution. And you'll have to write the 5 steps that you need to take in order to make that solution. So right now, pause the video and take a second to create the procedures for making your CuCl2 solution. Alright guys, welcome back. So hopefully you are able to write the procedures for making your CuCl2 solution. Now that you've figured out how many grams of CuCl2 you need to make your solution, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be going to the scales and you're going to be weighing out how much CuCl2 you need. So a couple things to keep in mind about using the scales. Number 1, make sure that after you use your scale that you close this lid, okay? So when you want to weigh something, you open it, and then when you're done with it, make sure you guys close it. This keeps the scale from getting damaged. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to open the scale once you're ready to weigh, and what you're going to do is you're going to put your weigh boat, there should be these plastic weigh boats on next to the scales, and you're going to put it on your weigh boat. Now, if you guys notice, the number on the scale changes, okay, because it's weighing the weigh boat now. But you don't really care how much the weigh boat weighs. What you want is you want to know how much CuCl2 you're going to be using. So you're going to press 0 or on right here, and that's going to zero out the scale. Now what you're going to do is you're going to look at the procedures that you guys wrote, and what you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking out CuCl2 from the container and putting it on the scale to weigh out how much you need. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. Okay, you want to take out a little bit at a time. Okay, you're going to be using this little scooper, and you're going to be putting just a little bit of CuCl2, and you want to gently put it on to the scale. Okay, so you want to put a little bit at a time, because the biggest thing is you cannot, if you have too much, you cannot scoop it up and put it back into the container. That will contaminate the rest of the samples in there. So make sure that you remember you can only take out from the scale, and then you have to put it into you can only take out from the container. You can't put it back into the container. All right, let's say for example you take out too much by accident. That's all good. There should be a waste container next to the scales, and you're just going to take what you don't need, scoop it out, and then you're going to put it into the waste container. There's going to be a container that says waste next to the scales, and that's what you're going to be using in order to get rid of any excess or unnecessary CuCl2. Okay. The third thing to keep in mind about scale use is that when you are done, if you spilled anything, please make sure to clean up the area. Just be considerate to everybody around you. You don't want chemicals just kind of laying there. If there's a mess, just grab a paper towel, wipe it down. If it's not coming off, make sure you use a little bit of water or a wet paper towel in order to clean it up. Okay? Alrighty guys, so once you've weighed out your CuCl2, what you're going to do is you're going to take it back to your lab station, and you're going to get a 100 milliliter volumetric flask, okay? So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be making your CuCl2 solution in here, and so what you need to do is you need to transfer the solid into the volumetric flask. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to grab one of these cute little mini funnels. You're going to put it on top of the volumetric flask. Not like that. It needs to go in. Okay. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be just carefully bending the weigh boat like this. Okay, you don't want to slam it closed. That's going to damage the weigh boat. You're just going to carefully bend it a little bit. You're going to put it over the funnel, and you're just going to shake a little bit. Okay, just very slowly. And you're going to notice that as you're doing it, you can stop right there. You don't need to put all of them in at one time. You're going to notice that it kind of gets stuck like this. That's all fine. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be getting a squirt bottle, and you're just going to be pouring water just very slowly, just kind of cleaning it off to make sure everything sinks to the bottom. And then you'll notice that all the CuCl2 is out of the funnel. Okay, then you'll just rinse and repeat. You're going to just bend it slowly again, shake it a little bit. You want to be careful so you don't lose any of your CuCl2. Okay, if you want to tap it a little on the side, you can. And you're going to notice again, I didn't get to put all of it in, but it's still stuck like that. So same thing as before. You're just going to use a squirt bottle to push it all down. You're going to notice that sometimes the water might get stuck. You guys might have just seen it. Some of the CuCl2 got stuck, and so it slowed down the water. Just make sure you're adding the water gradually and slowly. That way you get all of it. Okay. All right, lastly, what you're going to do is you're going to finish up by putting all the CuCl2 in there. And then what you're going to do is you're going to get your squirt bottle, and you're going to put your weigh boat on top of the funnel. And if you look at the weigh boat, you might be able to see little pieces of CuCl2 that are still in there. Very easy then. You're just going to use the squirt bottle and just slowly drive it in to the funnel. Okay. Now, you're going to notice that we have not filled up the volumetric flask to the line yet. That's fine. What you're going to do first is you're going to go and you're going to take your weigh boat to the sink. You're going to rinse it off, and then you're going to put it upside down next to the sink so that it can dry. Okay? So we're done with the weigh boat. Now what you're going to do is you're just going to take your squirt bottle, and you're going to rinse the funnel. So you want to add slowly so you don't overwhelm the funnel. And then you're going to add until the water reaches the line. Okay, so as the water gets higher and higher, it actually fills up faster and faster. So you want to slow down the closer you get to the line. Eventually, you want to just do drop by drop. And then you want to make sure that the bottom of the water line is curved at the line. Okay? All right, so there you go. You are done with adding your water to the CuCl2 solution. All right, guys, so the key thing to keep in mind is you want the bottom of that water line, it's called the meniscus, you want that at the white line. That's going to tell you that you have the correct volume for your solution. All right, now that you've put all the CuCl2 into your volumetric flask, you're ready to stir it. So now we don't want to do it like this. This is kind of the inefficient way of stirring. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your CuCl2 to the stir plate station, should be with your instructor somewhere. You're going to put your volumetric flask on top of the stir plate, and then you should be obtaining a magnetic stir bar. It looks kind of like a pill like this from your instructor. You're going to drop it into your volumetric flask, and then you're just going to turn it on so that you can stir, and you should be able to see that the solution is stirring. Okay, and you're just going to let that stir for maybe about a minute or so, and then afterwards you're going to turn off the stir plate, and then your solution should be ready to go. Okay, two things to keep in mind for using the stir plate. The first one is to just make sure that you clean up any wet spots. So for whatever reason, if any liquid gets out of your volumetric flask and gets on the stir plate or that surrounding area, just make sure that you guys clean that up. The second thing is to make sure that you guys return the magnetic stir bar to your instructor after every use. Okay, you cannot take it to your lab station. So the two things to keep in mind: clean up if there's a mess or anything like that at the stir plates, and the second thing is to return the magnetic stir bar to your instructor. Alrighty guys, so now that you're done making your CuCl2 solution, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking it back to the lab station in order to react it with your NaOH solution. Now before we get started, what you want to do is you want to take note of what the two solutions look like. Now if you take a look at the CuCl2, it's going to be blue, and if you notice, there's no like chunks or cloudiness or anything like that. It's just a blue solution with the blue stuff dissolved in there. Okay, next, the NaOH solution just looks like water, right? It's just a clear liquid. All right, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be mixing these two aqueous compounds together, and we're going to be creating a precipitate, the stuff that we've been learning in our lectures up until this point. So very easy. You're just going to slowly pour into the beaker from the volumetric flask, and you're going to notice that the color changes pretty radically, right? There's a big color change. It goes from light blue to dark blue. And if you take a look at the mixed solution, now you're going to already see that there's some kind of chunks on the surface, right? You're going to see that it's a little bit more, it's a thicker solution, which gives us indication that it's probably a solid in there. All right, so we have mixed the two solutions together. Oh, before we move on, just to show you that the CuCl2 was aqueous, if you look at it now after we've poured everything, it's completely clear. There's nothing left in there. There's no chunks or anything like that. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to take your volumetric flask, you're going to wash it, and then you're going to hang it on the racks to dry. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this solution right here with our precipitate, and we're going to take it back to the stir station. Okay, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making sure that everything in there is completely reacted. So once you take this to your stir plate station, you're going to put your beaker on top. You're going to get a magnetic stir bar, same thing as before. You're going to carefully drop it in there, and then you're going to just stir it to make sure that everything inside of the beaker is reacted. Now you're going to keep the beaker on there for 3 minutes. During this time, this would be a good time to work on your post-lab calculations a little bit. Try to use a timer, okay, since you're going to be leaving it up at the stir plate station, and see if you guys can get some work done on your post-lab calculations while the solution is stirring and everything is being allowed to mix. Alrighty guys, so after 3 minutes, what you're going to do is you're going to go back to your solution. You're going to turn off the stir plate. You're going to get a stir bar retriever. You're going to put it in there, and you're going to retrieve your magnetic stir bar, and you're going to return this stir bar to your instructor. Okay? All right, what you're going to do now is you're going to take your solution to your instructor back, or you're going to take it to your lab station, excuse me. And what you're going to do is you're going to set up what's called the 3F system. 3F system is a system that we use in order to separate solids from liquids. So there's solids that were formed in there, and we're going to be separating it from the liquid inside of that solution. So the 3F system is made out of three things. They all start with the letter F. So we got a filter, coffee filter. The next thing that we have is a funnel, and then we have an Erlenmeyer flask. So filter, funnel, flask, 3F. Okay, very creative name, right? So again, this 3F system is used to separate solids from liquids. And so before we get started with the 3F system, what you have to do is you have to find the weight of your coffee filter. Okay, so take this to the scale, find out how much your coffee filter weighs, because if you don't have the weight of your coffee filter, you will kind of be stuck at the last step of the lab. Okay, so to make sure that you guys find the weight of your coffee filter and you guys write it down on your lab handout somewhere. Okay. All right, we're going to be setting up the 3F system now. It's very easy, and I believe that you need to draw it on your pre-lab handout. So make sure you guys draw something that looks like this. It doesn't have to be the most elaborate drawing, but the 3F system looks like this. You're going to put the flask on the bottom. You're going to put the funnel on top, and then you're going to put the coffee filter right on top, okay? So if you can draw something that looks something like along those lines, you can. You got your funnel on the bottom, you have your flask on the bottom, funnel in the middle, and your filter paper on the top. All right, what you're going to be doing now is you're going to be taking your solution and you're going to be pouring it into your 3F system. So what you're going to do is just kind of give it a little push, your filter paper, into your funnel. Now you're going to use 2 fingers to just kind of hold it on one side. And then you're slowly going to pour your solution into the filter paper. Now, try not to let it touch your hands. If you pour some in there, it should be able to keep the filter paper down so you can remove your hand. And then you're slowly just going to pour into the filter. And then you're just going to allow the solution to separate from the precipitate or the solids that are in there, okay? Now, this procedure or this step might take a really long time. So this is a really good time to work on your post-lab calculations and have everything completed except the numbers that you don't have, so that once everything is completely filtered, you are ready to go. You don't have to waste any time. You're waiting anyway. Might as well do something productive, right? So you're just going to keep pouring. You don't want it to overflow and you don't want the filter paper to rip. So you're just going to slowly add your solution in there. Again, if you notice, it's a very, very slow system. And we're just going to allow it to filter on its own. Alrighty guys, so now that, once you have transferred everything from your beaker into your 3F system, you're going to allow it to keep filtering. Again, it's a very, very slow process, but if you take a look inside your beaker, you're going to notice there's still some stuff stuck on the side of the beaker. Now, we want to make sure we get all the precipitate that we can. So the way that we are going to make sure that all of your product is transferred from the beaker to the 3F system is we're going to get our squirt bottle and we're just going to pour a little bit of water. You do not want to use a lot of water because the more water you use, the longer it's going to take to filter. And so we're just going to swirl the water around and then pour it back into our 3F system. Okay, I would recommend maybe doing this 1 or 2 times to transfer everything from the beaker to the 3F system. If you do more than 2 times, you might be using too much water and you might end up taking too long to do the lab. So we want to make sure that we finish. So just make sure you guys don't use too much water as you're transferring from the beaker to the 3F system. All right, now for some of you guys, depending on when you guys start, you might actually not be able to finish filtering the 3F system. You guys can probably tell it's taking a really long time. I've been waiting for several minutes now, and it's still going. So some of you guys might need to wait overnight in order for this entire system to finish filtering. So what you're going to do is if you're running out of time, if you don't think everything is going to filter out, you're going to get a label from your instructor and you're just going to add a label on your flask. You're going to write your name and your block number onto the label, and then you're going to take your 3F system to your instructor. There should be an area for you to put the 3F system so that it can filter overnight. So again, if you don't think that you're going to finish, if it's filtering really slow and you don't have a lot of time left in class, get a label from your instructor. Give your instructor the 3F system so that you can just let it filter overnight. And the next time that you come to class, everything should be filtered out. Alrighty guys, so once your solution has completely filtered, it should look something like this. So if you guys notice, we got our flask with the liquid, and then we have this blue compound stuck inside of the filter paper. Now that is your precipitate. Now what you want to do is you want to touch your filter paper and make sure that it is completely dry. Okay, if it is still wet, you're going to need some time to dry it. So you're going to let your instructor know, and they'll have a drying rack prepared where you can warm up your solution to get all the water out. But this one is already dried out. I've had it overnight. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking this to your scale and you're going to be finding the weight of the filter paper and the stuff inside. Now this is why it was important for you to find the weight of the filter paper before, because if you subtract the mass of the filter paper, you'll be able to find the chemical that got stuck in the filter paper, and that's going to be the weight of your precipitate. And whatever the weight of your precipitate is, that is the actual mass of precipitate that you find in the lab, and that's what we are looking for. Okay, so that's the information that I'm going to give you. A lot of information, you'll have to be able to get it from the preliminary information based on the chemical equation that we used. You'll have to figure out using a precipitation reaction and do some stoichiometry, and that's part of this lab. So good luck on completing this lab. If you have any questions, please let your instructor know. But yeah, good luck, everybody.